You know what Robert said to me last night at services? Robert came up to me. Got to my heart. I was like, you like the hair. That's funny. Shabbat Shalom. We begin the service on page 65. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sech fifina l'havkin ben yom u'ben layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'tzamaho. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisroel.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani ben Korahim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokach Ivrahim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam abisha armihim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam atir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zakef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rekaharet al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasali kol tzarki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam es Yisrael b'gvurah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam et Yisrael b'tifarah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten li'ayv koach.
We may be seated.
Utenenu hayom v'chol yom l'cheinu chesed harachamim b'einecha u'b'einei chol ro'einu v'tigmalenu chasadim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai gamel chasadim tovim le'amo Yisrael. Ashreinu matal chakenu manayim goraleinu mayafa Yerushatenu. Ashreinu shanachnu mashkimim u'marivim. Erev avokev ve'omrim hamayim b'chol yom. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai echad. Kadesh et shemcha makdishei shemecha v'kadesh et shemcha ba'olamecha u'vishuat chatarim v'tagbiya karnenu baruch atah Adonai v'kadesh et shemcha b'rabim.
Amen. Service continues on page 81.
Afach tamispidi lamacholi pitach tasaki v'tazreini simcha l'man yizamecha chavod v'leidom Adonai Elohai le'olam adeka.
Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 82 for those who are reciting the Kaddish today. For those who are reciting with me, please rise and recite along. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'yamad divrach pirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayedecho beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudeshah brichu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We're all standing now on page 83 for Baruch She'amar.
Baruch Shema. Yachid Chai Ha'olamim, Melech Mishubach Farad Et Shemo HaGadol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Melech Mehulav Tishbacho.
We're seated as we turn to 84.
Yikol Elohei Hamim Elilim, Adonai Shamayim Asah. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu l'hadam raglav kadoshu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu l'har kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai tzivot imanu mitzkav lanu Elohei Yaakov Selah. Adonai tzivot asher edam b'teach bach. Adonai Hoshea HaMelech Yaneinu v'yom kareinu. Bani b'chasecha v'atachti yagel libi b'shuatecha ashir al Adonai ki gamal alai. Continue on page 91. Beit Yisrael Baruch Hu et Adonai, Beit Aharon Baruch Hu et Adonai, Yireh Adonai Baruch Hu et Adonai, Baruch Adonai Mitzion, Shofin Yerushalayim, Hallelujah, Hodu, Adonai Kipor. Noten lachem l'chol basar, ki le'olam chasto. Hodu le'el hashamayim, ki le'olam chasto. Rananu tzadikim b'Adonai, la'isharim navati Nafshenu hikav Adonai Ezreinu Maginenu hu Kivo Yismach Libenu Kivashem Kotro Vatachnu Yehi Chasach Adonai Aleinu Kasher Yechalnu Lahach Mizmor Shir Le'Yom HaShabbat. O Jenuvun Besevad Shenim Varananim Yiyu Lehagid Ki Yashar Adonai Tzuri V'Lav Tabaho. Edotecha Memnu Me'od Levet Chana V'Kodesh Adonai Le'orech Yamim. V'hurafu michaperavon v'lo yashpit v'hirbala hashiva po v'lo ya'ir kol chamato Adonai Hoshea HaMelech Yaneinu v'yom kareinu.
Service continues on page 96 with the usher.
Sure. V'hilat Adonai Yedaber Pi v'varech kol basar Shem kodsho le'olam va'ed v'anachnu nvarech Yaham et Havyad Olam Hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohayich Tzion l'dor. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Ki tov zamer Eloheinu ki na'im lava tehillah. Agid devarav leYaakov, chukav u'mishpatav leYisrael, v'asachen l'chol goy u'mishpatim ba'yida'uhum. Hallelujah. Vayaram Karen le'amo tehillah l'chol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am terovo. Hallelujah.
Service continues 100.
Asot b'hem mishpat katuv, hadar l'chol chasidav. Hallelujah. Kol hanshama tehallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hanshama tehallelujah, hallelujah. Uvaruch shem kavado le'olam v'yimelech kavado et kol haaretz. Amen v'amen.
Please rise 101.
Atahu Adonai Elohim asher b'charta ba'Avram v'hotzeta me'or kasdim v'samta shemo Avraham v'matzata et levavoho ne'eman lefanecha. V'hayam b'kata lifnehem v'yavru v'tochayam b'yavasha v'et rodfehem hishlachta v'imtzolot k'mo even b'mayim azim v'yoshem. Vayar Yisrael et hayad hagdola asher asa Adonai b'Mitzrayim vayirham et Adonai vayaminu b'Adonai uv'Moshe avdo az yashir Moshe. Adonai hamlucha Moshe b'goyim va'alu Moshim b'har Tzion l'shpot et har Esav v'haytal Adonai hamlucha v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz hayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
We may be seated 104.
Nishmat kol chai tevarech et shem Adonai. Hallelujah, Shabecha and Farkon Rechet Shem Pachacha Kamor LeDavid. Barchi Nafshi et Adonai, B'chal karavai et shem kadsho, ha'el b'tatzimot uzacha, hagadol b'chvod shemecha, hagibor lanetzach v'hanora b'norotecha, ha'melech ha'yoshev, al kisei ram v'nisah.
Yishar Koach. In a moment, we'll be continuing the service in the middle of 105. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the wonderful guests of the Adats family. I know that Nathan is true to his Hebrew name, which means gift. And I know he's a gift to everyone who gets to know him. There's just a way, I thought I was special when, like, I was talking to him in 7th grade. I'm like, I get him and I totally like him. And then I realized everyone feels that way. So I'm not special after all. But I know he's a gift to all of us. And I see so many people here early in the service. And I wanted to acknowledge your presence and welcome you to Beth Israel. And I love to see the joining together of the pilgrimages of regular community worshipers and those guests who are joining us today, and watch you sort of intertwine in a wonderful and beautiful community, supporting holiness, supporting touching on the principles of Shabbat and Torah, of human rights and messages, and spirituality, and also love of family and friends. So I'm going to tell you briefly where we're at in the service. We are a traditional congregation. This is it's like an opera or a Broadway play. And we just got through the prologue. That was all like the playing and the prologue music. And we are at the verge of entering Act 1. Actually, we've kind of already stepped in with Jeff's leadership. The first act is we're reliving creation. The creation of the universe. In a moment on the next page, you'll see in 2 pages, on 107, when we all rise for the formal beginning of the service. The prayer is about the whole cosmos being made of energy, of divine light. So we're kind of recreating the Big Bang. And in the Psalms that Jeff has been leading us through, we've been feeling the hidden and transcendent levels built into nature and creation. So for another couple of pages, we're going to continue that connection that animals have to God, that trees have to God, the cosmos has to God in its very nature, and that God hears all of the sounds of all of it as a song. And then we're going to be doing the Shema, which Nathan is also going to be doing later in the service. But as we pray the Shema, our main line of Jewish creed, it says it's kind of the human solo in the cosmic choir. And it says that we have this incredible gift to actually be sentient enough to know that all of this is part of one system that operates according to hidden laws, both scientific and moral, and some that we may not, we just get inklings of. So that's the first act of creation, and that'll take us through until we get to the Amidah, and that's you'll be standing, and you'll be clear standing silent prayer. And that takes us through a very brief transition. I don't know if it counts as Act 2 or not. I'll say it does. Act 2 is brief, and Act 2 is redemption. We go from, it follows the path of our history and what we think is the actual journey of the cosmos throughout the year and throughout each day. That redemption is the ability to have a purposeful human direction. And we celebrate the gifts of Shabbat, the 1 day a week that we have for full reflection and appreciation of our connection to the universe to do that, and the gift of Torah, the fact that we have the ability to pass on wisdom intergenerationally to change the world. And then we head to Act 3. And Act 3 is where Nathan's going to make an appearance, and we then have Revelation. We have the reenactment of Mount Sinai up here. This will turn into Mount Sinai. Nathan will be our Moses for the day. He will receive the Torah from the beyond, from God, and through the generations to himself. He will chant the Shema like Moses on Mount Sinai, and then he'll take it around to us. So everyone, I don't mean this to be like ethnocentric, but we're all Israelites for the day. Okay, we're all in the wilderness, and Nathan is delivering Torah to us, as he will also in his sermon, also in his remarks and personal remarks. And then after that large act, that crescendo of revelation, then we have sort of epilogue. We have closing prayers to reflect on the entire process. So thank you for giving me a chance to orient you to the service. If anyone's interested in further details about it, they can be found in a guide written in English that's in the antechamber that says a guide to the Saturday morning service. And it follows it along with page numbers of how this proceeds. Thank you for your patience. I'm really excited about the service that is unfolding before us. As Alex comes up, To continue this section on creation, we are in the middle of page 105. And I'd like to just add that, as you probably saw on the sign, today is our first day where masks are encouraged but optional.
Shochenad Maharam V'Kadosh Shemaho V'Chaturanu Tzadikim Badonahai Le'Sharim Nabat Tehilaha V'Sharim Titala L'Divrei Tzadikim Titparah Chodosham Chasidim Titromaham U'V'Kerev Kedoshim Titkadash Uvmakalot, Rivavot, Amcha Bet Yisrael, Sheken Chovat Kol Yatzurim Lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu V'Avoteinu Leodot La'aleh L'Shabeach L'Faer L'Rmem L'Hader L'Barech La'aleh L'Kales Al Kol Divrei Shirot V'Tishbechot David Ben Yishai Abdecha Meshichecha Yishabach Shimcha Le'ad Malkeinu. Brachot behodao me'ata be'ad olam baruch ata Adonai el melech gadol batishbachot el haodot Adon haniflaot habocher b'shirei zimra melech elchei haolamim Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabah ve'omad v'rachiruteh ve'amlich malchuteh v'chayechon v'zomechon v'chayed v'chol beit Yisrael v'agalau v'zman kariv v'imeruhu amen Yehei shmei rabah mevorach ve'olamu almei almayah Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei v'kudshaha b'richuhu Leilamin kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechmata damiram be'alma v'imeruhu amen. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or borei choshech. Oseh shalom, v'varet hakol. Hakol yodu kavod, v'yeshut avin moin kadosh kavonai k'nei. In kerkecha Adonai Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh ve'ein zu otcha malkeinu l'chayei ha'olam haba efes piltecha go'alinu limot hamashiach ve'ein do melech hamoshienu l'tchiyat hametim
108.
El Adon al kol hamasim baruch u'varach b'fi kol neshama gadlo betuvo Male olam datu tvuna sober bimoto Hamid ka'el chayot hakodesh v'nedar v'chavod ala merkava Zechut u'mishor lifnei chiso Chesed v'rachamim lifnei kvodo Tovim me'orot shebara Eloheinu yitzaram bedav B'vina u'vaskel koach u'gvura natan bahem liyod moshlim bekerev tevel meleim ziv umfikim noga na'ezivam bechol ha'olam semechim b'tzeitam v'sasim b'voam osim b'yehem aretzon konam Pe'er v'chavod nodnim lishmot tzala verina lezecher malchuto kara l'shemesh v'yizrach ora v'hitkim surat halvana shevach nonim lo kol tzeva maram tiferet u'gedula Srafim ve'ofanim ve'chayot hakodesh la'el asher shabbat mikol ha'masim b'moshe כולם אהובים, כולם ברירים, כולם גיבורים, וכולם עושים באימה, ביראה רצון כל העם, וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושת טהרה, בשירה ובזמרה, מברכים ומשבחים, תפארים מריצים, ומקדישים וממליכים, את שם האל המלך הגדול גיבור ונורא קדוש הוא, וכולם מקבלים עליהם המלכות שמיים זה מזה, ועונים רשות זו זה להקדיש אותם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה, ובמה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. באופנים וחיות הקודש, ברעש גדול מנסים ומטרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, אל ברוך אמותינו נחיים. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו, ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. אהבה רבה אהבתנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ותורה חמלת עלינו. אבינו מלכנו, בעבור אבותינו, שבטחו בך, שבטחו בך, אבינו מלכנו, ותלמדם חוקי חיים, כן תכוננו תלמדנו, אבינו אב הרחמן, המרחם רחם עלינו, ותן בליבנו להבין ולהשכיל לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות, ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה, והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. ואבינו לשלום רבה כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון. וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלע באמת, להודות לך יחדך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר במו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Continue silently, middle of 112 and forward.
Adonai Elohechem emet. Vador vador hu kayam ushmo kayam b'chiso nachon malchuto b'emunato le'ad kayamet udvarav chayim v'kayamim. Emet shatahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu malkeinu melech avotenu goleinu goel avotenu yotzreinu tzur yeshuatenu podenu matzilenu me'olam shemecha ein Elohim zulatecha Ezrat avotenu atahu me'olam.
As we work our way down page 114, we'll be standing at the bottom of the page for the final 3 lines and heading into the apex meditation here, which is purely silent standing prayer. You can do the liturgy once we begin from 115b to 118, or close your eyes and have the music of your own spirit and soul create the prayer for you.
Tilot Elyon Baruchum Varach Moshe Ubnei Yisrael Lechanu Shiraha B'Simcha Rabba V'Amru Chulam Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai Mi Kamocha Nehedar B'Kodesh Nohora Tehilot Toho Sefer Shira Chadasha, Shipchu Geulim, Shimchal Svat Hayam, Yachad Kulam Hoduvim Lichu Be'amru, Adonai Imloch Leolam Va'ed, Sur Yisrael, Kuma Be'ezrat Yisrael, Uftechinu Mecha, Yehuda Ve'Yisrael, Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
For those who are still praying their own prayers, please continue them. And for the rest of us, we remain standing as we turn back to 115B.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot U'Mevi Goel Ibnei B'neihem L'man Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Ufoked Moshiach U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Abraham Ufoked Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayim Eitim Atarav Lehoshia Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechayim Eitim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofech Oholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michalocha Bal Gibros Umidol Melach Melech Meimit Umechayem Umatzmiach Yeshua B'ne'eman Atalach Hayot Meitim Baruch Atah Adonai Mechayei HaMeitim
116. Nekadesh
Mekadesh et Shimcha Ba'olam Keshem Shemakdishim Otav Shnei Marahom Kakatuv Hayad Neviyacha V'kara Zeh El Zeh Ve'amar
Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh,
Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh, Adonai Tzvaot, Melech Kol Haaretz Kevodo. Az b'kol Rash Gadol, Adir v'chazak mashminim kol, Mitnasim u'matzarafim, Le'umatam Baruch Yomeru. Baruch kavod Adonai mimekamo, mimkomcha malkeinu tofia, v'timlochonu ki mechakim anachnu lach, matzai timloch tzion, b'karov b'yameinu le'olam va'ed tishkon. Tihit gadal v'tihit gadash, b'toch Yerushalayim mircha, ledor v'ador u'lenetzach. Netzach Netzachim Ve'eineinu tirena malchutecha Kadavar ha'amur b'shirei uzecha Al yedei David Mashiach tzidkecha Adonai le'olam Elohayach Tzion L'dor v'ador Hallelujah L'dor v'ador Nagi godlecha U'netzach netzachim kedushacha Nagdish V'shivchacha Eloheinu kinu lo yamush Elam va'ed Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh ata Baruch ata Adonai Ha'el hakadosh.
We are seated 117.
Yismach Moshe b'matnach chelko, ki eben eman karata loho, ki yotifer brosho notata, b'amdo lefanecha al har Sinai. V'shnei luchot habanim harid b'yadoho, v'katuv b'hem shmirat Shabbat, v'chen katuv b'toratecha. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et Shabbat, la'aset Shabbat l'dorotam b'rito laham, b'ni u'bein b'nei Yisrael l'tilei laham. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ונתתו אדוני אלוהינו לגויי הארצות, ולא הנחלתו מלכנו לעבדי פסילים, וגם במנוחתו לא ישכנו ערבים לישראל. עמך נתתו באהבה, לזרע יעקב אשר בחרת. המקדשי שביעי, כולם ישבו ותענגו מטובך, והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו, חמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכר למעשה בראשית. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו רצה מנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך. סבנו מטובך ושמחנו בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת, והנפילנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה וברצון שבת קודשך, ואנוכו בישראל מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל ובתפילתם, ואשר בתעבודה לדביר ביתך, ותפילתם באהבה תקבל ברצון, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך. ותחזינה עינינו בשובך ציון ברחמים, ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו לציון. מודים אנחנו לך שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו בעת צורתנו ונשמעים לנו ועזור לנו כאן ותתך האחים הטוב כי לא חרחמך והמרחם כי לא תנוח סודך מעולם ציווינו לך. ועל כולם יתברך וישמרם שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד, וכל החיים ידעוך סלע, ויעלו שמך באמת, ישועתנו ועזרתנו סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני הטוב שמך וחנה להודות. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ברכנו בברכה המשולשת בתורה הכתובה על ידי משה עבדך, האמורה מפי אהרון ובניו כהנים המקדשך כאמור. וברכך אדוני וישמרך. אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום. שים שלום בעולם טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד באור פניך, כי באור פניך נתת לנו. אדוני אלוהינו תורת חיים ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום וטוב בעיניך ולברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
138.
יקדל ויקדש שמי רבה, ועמד בברך ורתה, והמליך מלכותי בחייכון, ובמפון חיי בכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו, אמן, תהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיא. יתברך וישתבח, יתברך וישמם ויתנשא, יתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי בקודשה, ברכו לעילם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירם בעלמא ויאמרו, אמן. תתקבל צאתנו והצאן בכל ישראל, קדם אבון ובשמיא ויאמרו, אמן. תהי שלום רבה מן שמיא, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, והוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו,
We turn back to page 72 for the Psalm for Shabbat.
היום יום שבת קודם. צדיק כתמר יפרח, כארץ בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובון בסלע, דשנים ורעננים Yashar Adonai Tzuri Velo Alatado.
On page 82, we have the Mourner's Kaddish. For those who are reciting the Kaddish on this day, you are encouraged to rise and recite along with me on the page. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala uvizman kari v'imru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit haleh, v'yit halal, shmei de kudisha, rihu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. We may be seated. May their blessings and memories continue to bring blessings to this world. And in a way, there's no better time than this to sort of formally invite in to this holy convocation and celebration, the Simcha, the memories and the spirits of the elder Max Addox, and David Addox, and Linda Garber, and Carol Lee Matthews. May their spirits be invited to be joining us at this holy moment as we've reached the third act of reenacting Mount Sinai. Alex just had us sing, I'm so glad he did, the final lines of the Shabbat Psalm that reminds us that young people raised strongly in strong values, it's a gift for a lifetime, because they are like a tree that when those are their roots and that's their soil, they grow up strong, resilient spiritually, and with moral courage. And that is something that we have seen in this family. We've watched Max grow up tall like a tree of cedar of Lebanon, and Nathan is following suit. And in this sense, we know that their trunks and will be strong. We also know that as they get older, the gift of tradition and the wisdom of ancestors is a gift that carries you through your life. It's not just about bar mitzvah, and it's not just about the rite of passage, but it is lifelong. That wisdom sinks in and the roots are drawing up that sustenance. And so that even as we are older, we are still creative and we're always growing. For this, where the youngest son, the youngest child is now reaching the age of maturity, this is a transition for this entire family. And we wish Jim and Ashley that their future is bright as well, right? Sometimes we feel like, oh, we finally did this job and we've been delivered to our kids are now at a certain age. But their future is bright. There's so much to grow and be creative with. The future of this family is beautiful and bright for its entire duration, L'dor Vador, generation to generation. So part of what parenting is that we hope that all of those voices that Ashley and Jim have put into Nathan and family and friends and Max, that those voices become voices that are part of Nathan's inner voice for his life. So even when someone's not physically, as a parent, even when I'm not physically in front of you, I hope you remember what I taught you to say to yourself. And we symbolize that with our talit. It's kind of a second skin. And the fringes remind us of all those voices, that love that has been bestowed on us, and that we kind of wear it as a second skin for our life, so that those voices are always with us, those acts of love and reminders and wisdom. And so today is the day that you are to get Nathan your talit, and it's my honor to invite up Uncle Danny and your father at this time to bestow it upon you. Just come up. You're welcome to say anything.
Shabbat Shalom. Danny was recently traveling. I said, hey, that'd be a great opportunity to get a talit with some history and meaning. Now let Danny tell the story of the talit. Uncle Danny.
So the story is that Jim asked me to get a talit for Nathan when I was in Israel, since that's the homeland of the Jewish people. But because of some communication between us, I don't think we totally understood exactly what he wanted me to pick up, and I didn't succeed in getting quite the right thing. And so after that, it happens to be that I was going to Poland. So he said, "Oh, we'll get one in Poland," because Jim's father is from Poland. Unfortunately, in Poland, there are so few Jews at this point that it's almost impossible to find a talit in Poland. So despite the fact that we looked around for that, and I had some friends looking around with me, we didn't succeed with that either. Finally, I found one that I really liked at the Jewish Museum in New York, being the other homeland of Jewish people. And the place that Jim was born. You were born. I know you were born in Canada, but that's where Jim's father lived the longest. So after he left Poland, and I just wanted to have this.
Amen. Every time you wear this talit, I hope you feel the love that's coming at you right now. May it be infused into your spirit. Thank you, Daddy. I'm going to invite Jim to stay on the bima, and I'm going to invite Max up. And I'm going to invite you guys, Max and Jim, you're going to be up over there. And Nathan, you've got responsibilities. I ask you to take your siddur and lead the service. We're on page 139.
אין כמוך באלוהים אדוני ואין כמעשיך
מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן. אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. אברהם היטיב ברצון את ציון. תבנה חומות ירושלים. תבנה חומות ירושלים. לבד בטחנו מלך אל רם ונישא אדון עולמים. קומה אדוני ויחוצו אויביך וינוסו משנאיך מפניך. מציון תצא תורה. מציון תצא תורה. ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. 140. והנרחץ ולשמי קדישה קדישה יקירה עלי מרצוש בחם. והנרחץ והנרחץ ולשמי Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Ana Emar Turush Becham, Yehi Rahava Padama, Diftach Libi, Orata, V'tash Libi Shalim,
You'll hand your seat over to Ron. Ashtay Achol Ron. The Jewish tradition is an unbroken chain that has been handed down for well over 3,000 years as a living wisdom and a living path of life. And it would not be with us today, where so much of that time was spent in persecution and the denial of our rights, if it weren't for people making it a priority, as this family has. So Jim, as you embrace the Torah, will you channel the love of Judaism, maybe a particular mitzvah, a particular holiday, a favorite value of Judaism that you've inherited, put it back into the Torah. And then Max, it's going to go to you. I'm going to ask you to do silently the same. And you know, Max, 2 years ago, I don't remember handing you a Torah on Zoom. So this is something that has to be face to face. So I also hope it's infused into you, but then put your piece of it back in. Let it be infused into Nathan, because someday, Nathan, you're going to be at the head of this line, and you're going to be handing it down.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Adonai Iti, Adonai Shem Lo Yachron.
Ki chol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, ki chol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Cha Adonai hamam b'achar, v'hamid na'aseh l'chol rosh. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu, v'hishtachavu, lehadom raglav kadoshu. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu, v'hishtachavu, v'har kodsho. Ki kadosh, ki kadosh, ki kadosh, Adonai Eloheinu, hine matovu manahim, shevet achim kam yachad. Shevet achim kam yachad, hine mato, hine mato. Ya da da da, hine mato, hine mato. Ya da da, ya da 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 da. We turn in the Red Book, which is a copy of the Torah, including prophetic readings and commentary. And the eighth time is we are on page 826. Charles comes on up. You're in the right place. For those who are who are streaming the service and are in a different Bible, we are in chapter 10 of the book of Numbers, beginning with verse 35. In a very special section you will recognize from the Torah service itself. And we Vayazor v'yagim v'yoshia v'chol chatzon b'avon amen hakol l'neinenu v'kavod Torah b'fein kirvi ta'amod chaya rezo v'edol bad edol v'zamen hakohen. I like to do it that way. Baruch she'natan Torah Moshe b'kedushato v'yatem advekim b'Adonai Elohechem chayim kulechem hayom. Baruch Adonai haborach le'olam va'ed. Amen.
Vayehi bin Soharon, Vayome Moshe, Kuma Adonai, Vayachutzu Aveka, Vayenusu Misanecha Mipanecha, Vanucho Yomar, Shiva Adonai, Rivavot Alpei Israel, Vayehi Ayam, Mitonanim Ra, Beoznei Adonai, Vayishma Adonai, Vayecharapo, Vaytevaer, Bam Esh Adonai, Vatochal Bikitzei Hamachane, Vayitzaka El Moshe, Vayitpalel Moshe, El Adonai, Vayishka Aesh, Vayikram Shem, Yikra Shem Hamakom Hahu, Kivara Ki Tavera Ki Barat Bam Esh Adonai, Veha Asafsu Fasher Bekirbo, Hitava Ta'ava, Vayeshuvu Vayivku Gambane Israel, Vayamru Miyachilenu Basar, Zacharnu et Hadagim, Asher Nochal B'Mitzrayim Chinam, Et HaKishuim Ve'et HaAvatichim Ve'et HaChatzir Ve'et HaBatzalim Ve'et HaShumim Ve'et Nafshenu Yevasha Ein Kol Bilti El Aman Enenu Ve'haman Kezera God Hu Ve'eno Ke'en Habidola Bidola Shatu Ha'am Ve'lakatu Ve'tachanu Ve'rachim Ve'rechaim O Dachu B'medakei O Bashlu Medaka O Bashlu B'faror Ve'asu et Ugot Ve'asu oto Ugot Ve'hayat ha'amo Ketam L'shad Hashamen Uveredet atal Al HaMachane Laila Yared Haman Elah.
Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chayei olam natan b'telchenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We're going to cover the scroll at this time and do our Mishnah. It's a time we pause in the service to remember those who probably may not be able to be with us or are with us and in need of healing. I'm going to ask for names at the appropriate time of anyone you could be praying for who needs spiritual or bodily healing. Meg will also be reading the very full list that we pray for on a continual basis right next to the Torah at the same time. This obviously, the person doesn't have to be Jewish, and it could be yourself. And so anyone who could use an increase in holiness and healing at this time, please add their name. Misha berach avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah, u'yivarech u'v'yarpeh et hacholim et Dick and Donna Matthews, Bill and Marilyn Harwitz, Sandra Garber, Herb and Martha Smith, the et. Joseph Ben Daniel and Refoya Ben Beryl. Bet Mayim Shir B'Chayel Sheva, David Ben Abba Gloria, Judith Elkin, Miriam Bat Ben Zion Ve'Esther, Devorah Viva Bat Yitzchak Ve'Esther, Yehuda Aram Ben Eliezer V'Tzipora, Azriel Shoshlomit, Shalom Zeb Ben Moshe, Yefifya Bat Yosef Yehudi, Meir Ben Hillel V'Blum Abbas, Yerushalma Ben Avraham Yitzchak, Rochel and Alana Yehudit, Bat Simcha, Ved Kol HaCholim B'Gila Kedosha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem, L'Hazgal Alprotam, V'Yishlach Lahem Mehera Rifua Shlema, Mina Shamayim, Rifuat HaNefesh, Rifuat HaGuf, B'Toch Shachalei Yisrael, Shabbatim L'Zok V'Rakanava Lavo, Hashta B'Agalav Man Kariv, V'Nomar, Amen. May they all experience a quick and speedy recovery. And there's right before Nathan's part in the Torah, there's actually a special prayer for healing that we often do. But pay attention when it comes and do it silently for yourself on this day. We continue with the second Aliyah, and we're in chapter 11, beginning on verse 10, we're beginning with the word Vayishma Moshe at the top of the column. And Ira takes over reading duties from Charles, and I call up our Levi Aliyah. Put this on for the sake of it. Ya'amod. Oh, I'm sorry, I have your Hebrew name. Tell me again. Ya'amod. Yitzhak Baruch ben Avram Dovid HaLevi.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'nachtamanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayishma Moshe et ha'am. V'chol v'mishpachotav ish lepetach ohalo. Vayichar af Adonai ma'od, uve'enei Moshe ra. Vayomer Moshe el Adonai, lama harayota le'avdecha ve'lama lo matzati chen ve'einecha lasum et masa kol ha'am hazeh alai. Ha'anochi hariti et kol ha'am hazeh im anochi hiladetihu ki tomar elai za'ehu b'cheikecha kasher yisa ha'omen et hayonek al ha'adama asher nisbat al avotav me'ayin li basar latet lechol ha'am hazeh ki yivku alai lemor tenu lanu basar v'nochela Lo uchal anochi levadi laset et kol ha'am hazeh ki kaved mimeni v'im ko at os
V'im kacha.
ata os ose לי, הרגני נא הרוג, אם מצאתי חן בעיניך ועל ערב רעתי. ויאמר אדוני אל משה, אספה לי 70 איש מזקני ישראל, אשר ידעת כי הם זקני העם ושוטריו, ולקחת אותם אלו אל מועד, והתייצבו שם עמך. וירדתי ודיברתי עמך שם, ועצרתי מן הרוח אשר עליך ושמתי עליהם, ונסעו איתך במסע העם, ולא תישא אתה לבדך. ואל העם תאמר, הקדשו למחר ואכלתם בשר, כי בכיתם אוזני אדוני לאמור, מי יאכילנו בשר, כי טוב לנו במצרים, ונתן אדוני לכם בשר, ואכלתם.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בדרכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. And Evan, I apologize for not calling you up properly at the beginning. As Evan rotates over and gets to be near Max at the scroll, again, something we didn't have a chance to do by Zoom in this way. Honored to have you up here as we continue with the third Aliyah. My honor to call up Danny at this time, along with Orion. By the way, that reminds me that if anyone's here for Tat Shabbat, it is taking place outside at this time. It was previously unannounced, and so if you're surprised, I hope it's a pleasant surprise.
Our reading will continue on page 830, verse 19.
Ya'amod. Danny, do you know your Hebrew name? Dani ben Amon v'Rivka, Hashlishit.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Verses 19 and forward.
Amen. לא יום אחד תאכלון ולא יומיים ולא 5 ימים ולא 10 ימים ולא 20 יום עד חודש ימים עד אשר יצא מאפכם והיה לכם לזרע יען כי מאסתם את אדוני אשר בקרבכם ותבכו לפניו לאמור למה זה יצאנו ממצרים. ויאמר משה 600,000 רגלי העם אשר אנוכי בקרבו ואתה אמרת בשר אתן לכם ואכלו חודש ימים הצאן ובקר ישחץ לכם ומצא להם עם את כל דגי הים יאסף לכם ומצא להם.
Awesome.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yeshar koach. And as you rotate over and Evan heads back to his seat. Fine. Ron was just, I have to admit, I hope you guys, Jim, you have to share today a little bit with Ron because he's also a proud papa on this day of your sons and Ashley as well. You know it so well. So, Ron is just telling me, you've got to say again, like how exciting this is that Max did not have a chance to read out of the scroll. Such an amazing moment for those, especially the guests. I don't know if you realize the scroll is written as it has been for thousands of years. And so it is in an ancient calligraphy and it lacks vowels and it lacks punctuation and it lacks musical notation. Can you imagine just a stream of English consonants all in a row and knowing how to chant it to perfection. So it's something that it's kind of like the hardest thing we do. It's just why we make it our rite of passage. To have Max accomplish himself. You could see I was like looking toward Ashley and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I feel, and Ron just feels the same way. So without taking anything away from Nathan, Nathan's like, am I expected to do that well? You will. So, but kol hakavod. It's such a beauty. It's part of the fun of an experience of a day like this. And another part of the fun of a day like this is to see the passing through of the generations. So I'm calling up John Kramer right now, but to think that John has been Jim's friend since 7th grade, and that John was at Jim's bar mitzvah. Come on up. Ya'amod Yaakov ben Elkanah v'Yehudit.
Continue right at the bottom of 8:30, verse 23.
Baruch et Adonai Habarakah.
Baruch Adonai Habarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Habarak le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher barhanu mikol amim v'natananu lanu et Toratav. Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Adonai Moshe. Vayomer Adonai Moshe. Hayad Adonai Titzar. Ata tireh. Vayikircha devari imlo. Vayitze Moshe. Vayadaber elam et divrei Adonai vayasov. Shivim ish miziknei ha'am vayamed otam svivot ha'ohel. Vayered Adonai ba'anan vayadaber elav vayatzel min haruach asher alav vayitein al shivim ish hazkenim vayehi kenoach aleihem haruach vayitnabu v'lo yasafu vayisharu shnei anashim b'machaneh Shema echad eldad v'shem hasheni medad v'tanach aleihem haruach v'hema baktuvim v'lo yatsu ha'ohala vayitnabu b'machaneh Vayaratz ha'na'ar vayaged l'Moshe vayomar eldad u'medad miknab'im b'machaneh Vayan Yehoshua bin Nun Mesharet Moshe V'Bechurav Vayomar Adoni Moshe La'en Vayomer lo Moshe Hamekaneh otali Atali Umi yiten Kolam Adonai Nevi'im Ki yiten Adonai et Rucho Aleihem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'ha'e olam natan ha'enu. Baruch atah Adonai natan Torah.
Amen. Yishar koach. And you get to rotate over and stay close to the Torah at this time. And it's my honor for the fifth Eliyahu to call up Angela Wolf. Ta'amo. Eliana Zivanit ba'aram v'sara ha'chamishi. It's wonderful to have you. Oh, no, Lonnie's reading. That's right.
Baruch Adonai Hambarak Leolam.
No, it's okay.
Baruch Adonai Hambarak.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarak Leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher b'karbanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Vayetasef Moshe al hamaleh u'ziknei Yisrael Ruach nasaha me'et Adonai Vayagal Salvim mit Hayam. Vayatosh al Hamachane Kaderek Yom Kol Uderek Yom Kol Sevivot Hamachane Ukamatayim al Panei Haaretz. Vayakam ha'am kol hayom hahu v'kol halayla v'kol yom hamacharat vayasfuhu et haslav hamamid asaf hasarah hamarim Vayishtechu Cham Vatslav Shama Shamatoach Hamachane Sivivot Hamachane Habashar Habasar Odenu Bein Shnei Achem Terech Ve'af Adonai Harim Barim V'kadeh Ve'am Adonai Baram Makar Rabba Me'od.
Okay. So you guys did the big switcheroo.
Where were you?
Nathan, it's actually that hard. Good luck. At Me'od. So you were right. Right there. And we can hand that to them.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam necha b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shakoche. He gets to rotate around. You can throw candy at Jim later. So there we go. We're taking over at the next Torah reading. We're at number 6, and it is my honor to call up Max, whose name for the moment I don't have. Thank you. Ya'amod Mordechai ben Yaakov Ha'ashishi.
Verse 34, page 833.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Borach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
ויקרא את שם המקום ההוא כפרות הטבה, כי שם קברו את העם המתאבים, מקברות הטבה נשאו העם חצרות, ויהיו בחצרות. ותדבר מרים ירון משה על אודות האישה החושית אשר לקח, כי אישה חושית לקח. ויאמרו הרב משה דיבר אדוני, הלא גם בנו דיבר, וישמע עם אדוני, האיש משה ענב מאוד מכל האדם אשר על פני האדמה. ויאמר אדוני פתאום אל משה ואל אהרון ואל מרים, צאו שלושתכם אל אוהל מועד, ויצאו שלושתם. וירד אדוני במורנם, ויעמוד פתח האוהל, ויקרא אהרון ומרים, ויצאו שניהם. ויאמר שמעו נא דברי, הנה נביאכם אדוני במראה אליו את דבריו, החלום אדבר בו, לא כן נביא משה בכל ביתי נאמן הוא, אל פה אדבר בו, ומערב לו בחידות, ותמונת אדוני יביט, ומדוע לא יראתם לדבר בעבדי במשה, ויחרף אדוני בם וילך, ונאסר מעל האוהל, והנה מרים צורת השלג, ויפן אהרון אל מרים, והנה בצורת, ויאמר אהרון אל משה, בי אדוני, אל נא תשת עלינו חטאת, אשר נוהגנו ואשר חטאנו, אל נא תהי כמת, אשר בצאתו מרחם עמו, ויאכל חצי בשרו. ויצעק משה אל אדוני לאמור, הנה בפניי.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yishar Koach. You get to rotate over. And thank you so much for a beautiful reading. We continue, and it is time for the seventh Aliyah. Nathan's going to take his place at the scroll. And, in a sense, it's both figurative and literal that one, Nathan takes the center and the parents step aside and watch. Ya'amod, Yaakov ben Mordechai, Nathan's parents, Ashvi.
Baruch et Adonai Hamorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamorach l'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, ve'avia yarok yarak befanecha, halo tikalem shivat yamim, tisager shivat yamim michutz l'machaneh, ve'achar te'asef, v'tisager Miriam michutz l'machaneh shivat yamim, ve'ha'am lo nasa te'asef Miriam, ve'achar nasu ha'am mechatzerot, ve'yahanu b'midbar paran.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We close the scroll and we separate between the two aliyahs. Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalmad yivarach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei.
Beit Yisrael. Amen. Yehesh Merabah Mekorach. Yom Ve'amaya.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha le'elam mikol birchata v'shirata
tushbechata v'nechemata damira v'yamav
v'yimaru.
Amen. Jim Ashley, I ask you to join Max. Ya'amod, 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 Ya'amod Natan ben Yaakov bar mitzvah.
Baruch Baruchu et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, ve'avia yarok yarak befanecha, halo tikalheim shivat yamim, tisager shivat yamim michutz lamachaneh, ve'achar te'asef, vatisager Miriam michutz lamachaneh shivat yamim, ve'ha'am lo nosa'at te'asef Miriam, ואחר נשאו העם מחצרות, ויחנו במדבר פרם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Mishaberach Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah Hu Yivarech et Natan ben Yaakov shehigia lemitzvot ve'ala lifod hamakom v'lifod haTorah v'lifod haShabbat HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmerehu v'chayehu v'chonen et libo liot shlemim Adonai Elohav ve'agol b'torato lalecha b'drachav lishmor mitzvotav v'shlach brachav atzlecha b'chol maseh yadav yiratzon sheyizku horav legadlo LeTorah, ulechupa, ulemaasim tovim, v'imsachem v'sechel toben Elohim v'adam v'nomar. Amen. May God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless Nathan Addox, who has joined himself in that line. He's been called to the Torah upon reaching the age of responsibility. He has approached with reverence for God, reverence for Torah, and reverence for Shabbat. May the Holy One protect and sustain him, helping him to be wholehearted in his relationship with our tradition, to study Torah and all forms of education, and to fulfill mitzvot. And may always he walk in God's ways. May his parents rear him to full maturity, guiding him to a love of Torah and of education, to the chuppah, to a life of marriage, of real loving partnership. It's a glory of God. And to a life of good deeds. May he find favor before God and the entire community. And so let us say. Amen. And we invite you also to prepare for your prophetic reading for your Haftarah and your remarks upcoming as it's time to lift and roll the Torah. So, and it's my honor to call up John Kramer and Hannah Wolf and Miriam Wolf. Please rise. Yamod Magbi'ah. Ta'amdun Kolaliyot. Please rise. Bezot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael Al Pi Adonai Biyad Moshe Eitz Chaim Hi Lamachazikim Eitz Chaim Hi Lamachazikim Betom Chemedusha I know. V'tov v'tivotecha shalom yada yada da 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 yada da 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 yada da 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 yada da 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 Oseh shalom bimroma Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. The Haftarah, the prophetic reading today from Zechariah, the prophet, can be found on page 837 in the Red Eitz Chaim, or it's chapter 2 of Zechariah, beginning with verse 14 for those streaming with using a different text. And the introduction can be found in the Eitz Chaim on the facing page. Zechariah is a prophet of exile and return from exile, and he picks up on the theme as a vision involving the menorah that we use, the menorah of the temple, and picks it up for a vision of the future. Interestingly, in that future, rather than having the Levites, the Israelite tribe, serve God, have all the nations of the world involved in God's service, which is our future goal. Nathan begins with the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nevi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Rani v'simchi b'tzion ki hineni v'shachanti v'tochech ne'um Adonai v'nilvu goyim rabim el Adonai bayom hahu v'hayu li le'am v'shachanti v'tochech v'yadata ki Adonai tzevaot shilchani elayich v'nachal Adonai et Yehuda chelko al admat hakodesh v'char od b'Yerushalayim haskol basar mipnei Adonai ki ne'or mim'on kodsho vayar'ei et Yehoshua hakohen hagadol omed lifnei malach Adonai v'hasatan omed al yemino v'sitno vayomer Adonai el Moshe El Hasatan, Yigar Adonai Becha Hasatan, Vayigar Adonai Becha Habocher B'Yerushalayim Halozeh Ud Mutzal Me'esh V'Hoshua Hayalavush Begadim To'im Va'omed Lifnei Hamalach Vaya'an Vayomer El Ha'omdim Lefanav Lemor Hasiru Habegadim Hatzoim Me'alav Vayomer Elav Re'ei He'evarti Me'alacha Avonecha V'chal Beishotcha Machalzot Va'omar Yasimu Tzanif Tahor Al Rosho Vayasimu Tzanif Tahor Al Rosho Vayalbishu Begadim Umalach Adonai Omed Vaya'ad malach Adonai Yehoshua lemor Ko amar Adonai Tzevaot Im bidracha telech Ve'im et ואם את משמרתי תשמור, וגם אתה תדין את ביתי, וגם תשמור את הצרה, ונתתי לך מלכים בין העומדים האלה, שמנה יהושע הכהן הגדול, אתה ורעך היושבי לפניך, כי אנשי מופת המה, כי הנני מביא את עבדי צמא, כי הנה האבן אשר נתתי לפני יהושע, על אבן אחד 7 עיניים, הנני מפתח פיתוחה, נאום אדוני צבאות, ומשתי את עוון הארץ ההיא ביום אחד, ביום ההוא, נאום אדוני צבאות, תקראו איש לרעהו, אל תחת גפן ואל תחת תאנה. וישב המלאך הדובר בי, ויראני כאיש אשר יאור משנתו, ויאמר אלי מה אתה רואה, ואומר ראיתי והנה מנורת צהב כולה, וגולה אור ראשה, ושבעה נרותיה עליה, 7 מוצקות לנרות אשר על ראשה, ו2 צאתי עליה, אחד מימין הגולה, ואחד על שמאלה. ואומר על המלאך הדובר בי לאמור, מה אלה אדוני, ויען המלאך הדובר בי, ויאמר אלי, הלא ידעת מה המה אלה, ואומר לה, לא אדוני. ויאמר אלי לאמור, זה דבר אדוני אל זרובבל לאמור, לא בחיל ולא בכוח, כי אם ברכי אמר אדוני צבאות, מעתה הר הגדול לפני זרובבל למישור, והוציא את האבן הראשה תשועות, חן לה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניך. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו על כיסו לא ישב זר ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו שלא יקבה נרו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת Shabbat Shalom. Today's Torah portion comes from the fourth book of the Torah, Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness. It tells several stories. First, it describes the cloud falling over the portable temple called the Mishkan. The movement of the cloud gives the Israelites a bit of instruction about what direction they should go. It also tells how the Israelites complained about the food they had in the wilderness and how they missed the food they had in slavery.
And Nathan, the cloud moved a little slowly, so I'm going to ask you to slow down just a little bit so we can savor each word.
In response, God sends a lot of quail, which the Israelites then overeat until they are sick. There are also instructions about the two trumpets, which are used both in celebrations and also as an alarm system during attack. Then, God has Moses appoint 70 elders to help him shoulder the burden of leadership. Finally, Miriam, Moses' sister, is struck with a mysterious skin illness by God. The whole book of In the Wilderness is a story of wandering, which is a stage of life in the story of the Jewish people. That kind of stage of wandering can happen in many different periods of life. It could be the time of wandering between jobs or between college and getting a job. It could be the transition stage in childhood, where the wandering is a stage of moving from one school to another, or finding the kinds of friends you can see every day from just having the kinds of friends you email now and then. The Jewish people are in the transition from slavery, a period of not being able to make their own decisions, to eventually living in the promised land, where they will be making their own decisions without the help of Moses and God, and they will be accountable for the decisions that they make. In many ways, the wandering in between is like middle or high school, that period where your parents let you make some of your own decisions, but you can't go off and do whatever you want. Your teachers and parents have a major impact on you, and you're still living under their roof. That's what being a bar mitzvah is all about. It seems almost a bit backwards because I worked so hard for today, and it's followed by me relaxing. Does that mean adulthood is just relaxing? Of course not. But there are times to rest and appreciate how far you've come. At the start of all this, I didn't feel confident reading Hebrew. And though I'm not 100% confident with it now, it comes a lot easier. Sometimes the cloud does stop and the Israelites would stop and rest. You can't always be on the move to accomplish something new. Part of life is appreciating how far you've come and applying it and expanding on it. That's what you do in services, when you keep doing the same things, but you gain knowledge gradually as you do it. The cloud moving forward and then stopping for a while, and the people doing the same, is like someone leading someone through adolescence. My mom has a poem that is about the fact that parenting is not about raising children to make them like you. You're giving them the space and learning not to make a version of you, but to make a version of themselves. As I said earlier, the movement of the cloud gives a bit of instruction about the direction the Israelites should go, but does not tell them everything. Sometimes my parents will tell me something is a stupid idea, but often they give me the freedom to try out making decisions and being accountable. I remember when my parents started having Max and me pay for things and make our own decisions about that. For example, if Max and I wanted to go to the movies, we'd be the ones to pay. The goal is to let us pay for what we want in a way that made us realize that money is not unlimited, but they taught us this by letting us make our own decisions. A similar principle works on my soccer team. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of some really good soccer teams, and I think one of the ways we have accomplished great things is by working together and giving each other suggestions instead of orders. In practices, my coach will occasionally stop the game, and instead of yelling at us and telling us exactly what to do, he'll ask us to think about how the game would change if our team played the situation differently. And if a teammate messes something up in a game or scrimmage, say makes a bad pass or a bad decision, people on my team will say, "It's okay that you made a mistake, just make sure you learn from it." If you stop playing because you make a mistake, you'll never learn anything or get better. Learn from it and try not to make the mistake again. This is like the Israelites experiencing the period of transition in the wilderness, where the cloud settles and gives them time to take instruction. Try different things, make mistakes, support each other, and learn and grow in this way. I've been fortunate enough to have great people around me help me grow in this way. Earlier, I mentioned the 2 trumpets God commands the Israelites to make. They were used to signify that it was time to charge into the future with confidence. And as a trumpet player myself, I hope I can use all what I've been taught from all of you to charge into the future with confidence. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you to all of those who have helped me get to this point. I'd like to thank my mom for being the best person in the world to talk to. I can talk to my mom about anything, whether it be about soccer, her childhood years, or what we're going to have for dinner that night. I love you, Mom, and you will always be my sunshine. I'd like to thank my dad for always encouraging me to meet my goals. Getting a good night's rest, starting with the Lego story, starting the morning fueled up with the Big Leg Sammy, and firing up my spirits with Spandau Ballet on the drive to training. Thank you. Now my brother Max. I love taking crazy pictures with you at home and training together at Skyline. It's great spending time with you both on and off the field. Next, I want to thank my soccer team. We've grown so much this year, and I love playing alongside you guys. You've pushed me to get better and reach my goals. And I hope I've done the same for you. Thank you to all of my friends for having fun with me, making me smile, and always giving me something to look forward to. Thank you to all the people who came from far away to spend time with me and my family. To those on Zoom, thank you for attending, even though you could not be here today. I'd like to thank Rob Nadav for helping me write my Dvar Torah and Meg Bernstein for helping me feel comfortable with the choreography of the service. Last but not least, Ron Sussman. Ron helped me gain so much confidence reading Hebrew, follow trope, and learn each part of the service that I've done today. Not only that, but every single week, he welcomed me into his house with a cold drink on a warm day or a warm drink on a cold day. We spent so much of the time learning together, but Ron knew how to make the whole thing fun. Shabbat Shalom.
Take Ron's spot.
I thought Nathan sitting in the back of Max's on Zoom and crying was. Okay. So, Nathan, I want to start by telling a piece of our story. As you and some others here may know, or and they know, your Amy aunt did the hard work of carrying you around for 9 months and giving birth to you. We were having a hard time thinking of boys' names. We wanted to honor Amy, but we had already used her middle name for Max, and we couldn't think of any iteration of the A that we liked. So I flipped through a baby book and I found Nathan. The book listed the name as having a Hebrew origin and meaning gift from God. It immediately seemed we'd found just the right name because we in fact felt blessed by the gift that we had been given. After your birth, I mentioned this connection to your Israeli uncle Danny, and he said, not really. The word natan really translates more closely to give. At the time, I decided not to listen to him because I liked it the way that I liked it. But as you have grown into the person that you are, I see that the literal translation is as much a part of who you are as the meaning that I was attached to. When you were just 3, I saw you take the hand of my cousin's 12-year-old son to lead him into a game of hide and seek that you and the other cousins had already started. No one told you that he had autism and that he didn't understand how to be in that game. You felt his discomfort and you gave him the gift of belonging by explaining, showing, and sticking right with him. Time after time, day after day, this is the way that you have lived your life. Watching and sensing what others are feeling, and then giving with intention, kindness, and empathy. You are a faithful friend and a snuggly, huggable boy, giving the gift of your attention and your love every day. You have grown into a quiet leader, always giving encouraging word for your soccer teammates, your school friends, and your family. My wish and my charge for you, our wish and charge as you move forward in the world is that you continue to embrace the strength of your giving heart with confidence and with joy. We are so proud of you, Nathan. You are indeed a gift and a blessing.
Will you linger for just a moment longer so I can give Nathan a blessing? I'm just going to add one line because I think everyone here would love to take a turn at this point because we all want to say our experience with Nathan. I'll just say one thing, which is, Nathan, you are so humble and you are so intuitive and such a feeling person, like your mother said. And you have such deep grace and sincerity. And I just love every moment I've gotten to be with you. I hope we have many more. And I have to share, and you're also deeply, you have a real wisdom about you. I mean, I find myself hanging on everything that's coming out of your mouth. One of the things I really want to share is something that was incredibly deep, and I'll just let it sink in, which is I was asking you what you make of the Torah, because, it has miracles and things, sort of legends that are fantastical. And it also has real, literal, old-fashioned codes and laws and history. And how do you take it? And you said, there's the genre of fiction and the genre of nonfiction. Maybe the Torah is an entirely different genre from those. And I still think about that. I still think about it all the time, its own genre. So I just want to honor the beautiful person you are, the beautiful family you come from, the beautiful tradition that speaks through you in new and valuable ways that teaches us. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and guard you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light continually shine on you and be gracious to you. And Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom. May God always turn directly toward you. May you never feel alone, and may you feel peace in your portion. And we say, your family, you may return and sit with your family once again. And we call up Ron Sussman. We're on page 148 as we continue the Torah service. Yikum Porkan Min Shemaya. Page 151 for the Ashrei.
Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Odi Halalucha Sela.
Ashrei Ha'am
Shekachalo, Ashrei Ha'am She'Adonai Elohavti La Ledavti, Aron Himcha Elohai HaMelech V'avarcha Shimcha Leolam Va'ed V'choyam Baruchecha V'alala Shimcha Leolam Va'ed V'adol Adonai Umhulal Me'od V'ligdulato En Cheker V'dor Shabbat Ma'asecha V'uratecha Yakidu Hadar Kavod Hodecha V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha
V'ezuz noratecha yomeru, u'gdolatcha asafrena.
Zeiferav Tuluchayabiu, V'tzikatecha Yiranenu,
Chanu v'rakum Adonai, erech apayim u'tochaseh.
Tov Adonai Lakol, V'rachamav Al Kol Ma'asav, Yoducha Adonai Kol Ma'asecha, V'chasidecha Yerachucha, Kivod Malchutcha Yomeru, U'gvuratecha Yedaberu, V'hodia Livnei Adam V'rucha, V'od Adam Malchuto, Malchutcha Malchut Kol Olami, U'memshaltecha B'chol Dor V'ador, Samecha Zokef L'chol HaKrufim, Einechol Elecha Yisaberu, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתו.
פותח את ידיך ומשביע רצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו. קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראו באמת. רצון יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם.
שומר אדוני כל אוהביו. Please rise.
Adonai Edaber Pi, Livaret Kol Basar Shekvatsho Le'olam Va'ed.
V'yatnu nevarech Yah, me'ata li'adam, hallelujah.
Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Yizgav Shemo Levato.
Hodo Amelech v'shamayim v'yahanem keren li'avo tila l'chol chasida l'nei Yisrael am k'rovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Habu l'Adonai b'nei Eli, Habu l'Adonai, Habu l'Adonai, Habu l'Adonai, Habu l'Adonai, v'hadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai, Kol Adonai, Be'adam, Kol Adonai, Shomer Harazim, Hayeshamer Adonai et Arzei Havanon. Kol Adonai, Kotzev Avotesh, Kol Adonai, Yafil Midbar, Yafil Adonai, Yadesh, Kol Adonai, Tefol Belchayim,
Vayechesot Ya'arot, Uve'echalot, Ulo Omer Kavod. Adonai Oz Le'am Moitei,
Adonai Yevarech et Adonai. Remain standing as Kimberly Cobb comes up to the microphone as we turn back to page 148 for the prayer for our country. She'll be succeeded by Daniel Michaeli with the prayer in Hebrew for Israel.
A prayer for our country. Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings for our country, for its government, for its leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights from your Torah that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst.
Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony to banish hatred and bigotry, to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country.
May this land, under your providence, be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say, amen.
Amen. We remain standing for the prayer for the state of Israel in Hebrew.
אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו, ברך את מדינת ישראל ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו. הגן עליה בעברת חסדך, ופרוש עליה סוכת שלומך. ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה, ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך. חזק את ידי מגיני ארץ קדשנו, והנחילם אלוהינו ישועה ועטרת ניצחון תעטרם. ונתת שלום בארץ ושמחת עולם ליושביה, ונאמר אמן.
Now Evan will read it in English, followed by Orion.
Avinu Shebashamayim, Rock and Redeemer of the people of Israel. Bless the state of Israel with its promise of redemption. Shield it with your love, spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Defend them, crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say,
Amen. The prayer for peace.
May we see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world.
May nation will not threaten nation. Mankind will not again.
For all who live on earth shall realize we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We have come into being to praise, labor, and love.
May God bless the leaders of all nations with the power of compassion.
Fulfill the promise conveyed in Scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and you shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you.
I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and shall not be ravaged by war.
Let love and justice flow like a mighty stream. Let peace fill the earth as waters fill the sea. And let us say amen.
Amen. We may be seated. Shkocha. Nathan said it correctly, that this is a book about transitions. And he labeled and discussed different kinds of transitions that take place in our lives. And we are in this large book of the Torah as we are going through it in a period of transition. It is the book in which we've been on the road from Egypt for probably around a year. And then we're going to spend 39 more years in this book in the wilderness before we get to the beginning of Deuteronomy. It's about camping. It's about living in transition. And many people have stated, I think with brilliance, that maybe Judaism is a religion of wandering. Maybe it's a religion all about transition. When I had the chance to study comparative mysticisms, looked at mysticisms of different cultures, it is often labeled as such. There is the mysticism of being seated. There is the mysticism of being connected to nature. And Judaism, Kabbalah, is often talked as the mysticism of walking and wandering. Because even in the Zohar, the rabbis are always walking along when they're sharing teachings. And then when something gets really deep, they say, for this, we need to sit down. I want to not let this Shabbat pass without memorializing, without sharing words from Aleph Bet Yehoshua. We have lost this past week at the age of 85. It's easy to miss in this time. One of the greatest of the Jewish novelists, I was going to say Israeli, along with Amos Oz and David Grossman and others, considered to be one of the titans of Hebrew literature and certainly Israeli literature. And I want to share a teaching of his about this wandering and transition. It's not the easiest teaching, but it's one we need to hear. I think sometimes we get used to, and I'm trying to practice an opposite myself, is identifying where we stand on a spectrum of politics, religion, and other things, and we assert our identity. And I think we need to open up more for hearing views that challenge us, and his views sometimes challenge me. If you know what Aleph Bet Yehoshua said about American Judaism, you know I can't believe the rabbi is going to bring it up. And I'm going to bring it up because I'll hear it. He deserves it. He deserves it. May his spirit rest in peace. In 11 novels and 3 short story collections and 4 plays, Aleph Bet Yehoshua, which is his pen name, delved into all kinds of subjects around the Israeli psyche and about human nature. He died in Tel Aviv at the age of 85 on Tuesday. Now, Aleph Bet Yehoshua, unlike many others influenced by Ashkenazi Judaism, was not only Sephardi, but Mizrahi. And he had a perspective that informed his understanding of what it means to live in the wilderness as a Jew, because he came from 5 generations of Mizrahi Jews in Jerusalem. So his people living in Jerusalem went back way into the 1800s. And people who grew up like that grew up knowing Arabic, speaking Arabic, having a lot of Arab friends. And for them, they experienced, yes, tensions, hostilities, but they also experienced a lot of coexistence in the land and friendship. It informed his writing in many ways because it was one of the early leaders of Peace Now. He spent his whole life condemning settlements in the West Bank and pleading for the future of coexistence of Arabs, Israelis in the land of Israel. First, as a 2-state solution, and then recently out of despair because of the breadth and anchoring of the settlements in the West Bank for some form of 1-state confederation. He wrote, as a Mizrahi, I can look from the outside and see our failures as Jews more clearly, especially regarding Zionism. The Jewish people failed. Zionism was such a, and what he means by that is this. I should clarify where he's coming from. He was an ardent Zionist, and he felt that most of us are not Zionist enough. He taught Zionism, he taught it undergrad and grad. It was a passion of his. And what he is saying is the Jewish people, we have not been Zionist enough because we've gotten used to living in the wilderness. He said it goes all the way back to the Torah. We got the Torah. Where did we get it? Not in Zion, not in Israel. We got it at Mount Sinai in the middle of the wilderness. Where we spent thousands of years in the wilderness. Where are we comfortable as Jews? The 39 years that Nathan introduced us to, we're comfortable in transition. We are just not comfortable doing anything but wandering and accepting and embracing what Zechariah in the Haftarah calls us to and the prophets do, which is the point is to enter the promised land. And as Nathan said about adulthood, to enter it and to make it real. And he called everybody out, especially me. He said, Jewish people have always failed regarding Zionism. Less than 0.5% of 17 million Jews lived in Palestine in 1900. Zionism united everybody only in hatred then. The religious despised it, the reformers despised it, the assimilations despised it, the socialist Bundes, they all hated us. And yet Zionism succeeded, although it never received a permission slip from the Jewish people. We seized the moment and then issued marching orders for the rest of the Jewish people to catch up, especially after the Holocaust. We obsess constantly, I'm reading his words, about our failure, and this is true. We Israelis obsess constantly about our failure to anticipate the Yom Kippur War. If you have HBO, maybe you caught the miniseries this past year. There have been so many movies and artistic works in Israel, really soul searching about, like America soul searches about Vietnam, we soul search Israelis about the failure and the complacency that led to the disaster of the Yom Kippur War. So rabbis like Rav Nadav talk about that, and we won the war. What about the failure to embrace Zionism, or at least to embrace what was happening in Europe with the Nazis? We lost 1/3 of our nation in 5 years, and we pretend that we're normal, but we're not. We walk around with an amputated leg, and we walk around with a broken heart. And still, most of us don't realize that there's a direct line from Mount Sinai to Auschwitz. He felt strongly that there's no nation without a homeland. And he said, homeland is the nation's foundation, and people can change their habits, outlooks, religions, cultures, even their language, but your homeland is unchanging, it's defining, it's foundational. And he said, it goes back to the Torah, because Jacob and his sons leave the land following the famine and choose not to return. The Jewish nation is not born in its homeland. The spiritual ID card, the passport of the Jewish people, the Torah is given in the desert in no man's land. And it raises the question whether the national religious identity fused or was welded imperfectly. Being Israeli is my skin, it's not my jacket. And those diaspora Jews, and this is where he's challenging me, and I'm not going to react, I'm going to listen, right? They change jackets. They go from country to country, but I have my skin, my territory, the smell of the territory, the smell of the language. It's my identity. It has nothing to do with religion. The difference between those outside the land of Israel, those Jews, and myself is that I'm married, and they are flirting with the idea of marriage. So he challenged us. He said things that American Jews like me reacted strongly to. But he was deeply wise, and on this day I listened to his message. How much do we in diaspora embrace our Judaism? How much do we embrace the wandering without understanding the reality of Israel? He wrote, being a total Jew means trying to achieve that fusion that didn't take fully place at Sinai. It's to use our text, our past, and our identity in such a way that will imbue us with greatness, hope, and consolation, now that we are home after a painful national journey. And to those who are deeply nationalistic, he offered, within Israel, he offered the contradiction yet again. This has been a land since the promised land that has been coexistence of Arabs and Jews, both indigenous to the land, coexisting within it. And he saw no contradiction in sharing the land and being a deeply ardent Zionist to us all. May he rest in peace. May we consider his words without reacting. And may his memory always bring blessings to this world. Shabbat shalom. It's my honor to call up Nathan and Ron again to lead the Musaf prayers. Am I wrong? I'm calling up Ron to lead. I'll let Ron tell us what we're doing, which is fine.
Please rise.
Please rise.
We worked on it. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'olomati v'rachi rutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael v'galav zman kariv v'yimeru amen Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach Le'olam u'le'om me'omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei d'kudesh shabarichu le'ela bin kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Damiron biolma bimaru. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah El Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot Umevi Goel Livnei v'Nehem Lema'an Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozer Faked Umoshia Aged Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ufokei Tzara Atagi Borli Olam Adonai Mechaye Metim Atarav Lehoshia Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechaye Metim Berachamim Rabim So Mechnoflim Berofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekaye emunato li shenei afar michamocha ba'al gefurot umidomelach melech meimi umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'nemanata l'hachayot beitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechaye Hametim
157.
Na'aritzecha v'na'akdishcha Kesod siach Tzarfei kodesh Hamakdishim Shtimecha ba'kodesh Kakatuv al yad nevi'echa v'karaze el zeviyamai Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzvaot Meloch ha'aretz kevodo Kvodo malei olam Shrataf shvalim zeh lazeh Aye mekom kevodo liumatam baruch yomeru baruch kavod Adonai mimkomo hu yifen berachamim v'yachon am hamyachadim shemo erev avoker v'chol yom tamid Pamayim b'yava shema omrim Eloheinu Adonai Echad
Hu Eloheinu hu Avinu hu Malkeinu hu Moshienu vehu Yashmienu vehu Yashmienu berachamav shenit li'enei kochai vehu Yashmienu berachamav shenit li'enei kochai liot lachem le'Elohim. Uvedivrei kochecha katuv lemor Elohai Zion ledor vador naki gadlecha ulenetzach netzachim kedushatcha nakdish v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yemush liolam va'ed ki el melech gadol v'kadosh ata Baruch ata Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
158 and forward, or your own personal prayers, meditations. For those still davening, please continue as the rest of us are on 181.
Yitkadav Yitkadash Shemei Rabba Yolamati V'Rachirutei V'Yamlich Malchutei B'Chayechon U'V'Yomechon U'V'Chay Dechol Beit Yisrael B'Gala V'Zman Kari V'Yimaru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam U'Le'ol Me'omaya Yitbarach V'Yishtabach V'Yitbar V'Yitromam V'Yitnaseh V'Yitadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitalal Shmei de Kudesh Shabarichu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata Dushbachata V'Nechemata Damiran B'Yolama V'imaru Amen Titkabel Tzaloton Uvoton Decho Yisrael Kadam Avuhon Divishmaya V'imaru Amen Yehi Shlomo Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'Yalko Yisrael V'imaru Oh, say shalom bimromav, uya say shalom. Aleinu v'yalko Yisrael v'imeru. Amen.
We're going to invite Nathan and Max up in a moment. I'm going to do announcements now. Or not. While Nathan and Max come up for Ein Keloheinu, which is on the curtain behind me, I want to thank the Shella family
for working together to lead Tat Shabbat for us. It is such a treat, and it enhances the Shabbat as we watch them grow up to stages like this, and then the rest of us.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Kadoneinu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshienu. Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Emalkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shehiktiru, Avoteinu, Lefanecha.
Aleinu leshabeach la'adon ha'kol, tate gidua le'ser bereshit, shelo asanu k'lo ha'avot, velo sanu k'mishpachot ha'ama, shelo asanu k'kahen, velo oralim k'kol ha'adonai, Mishtachavim Lifnei Melech Malchei HaMelechim HaKadosh Baruch Shebunot HaShamayim ve'osei ha'aretz Moshe v'Karon Yerushalayim b'ma'al U'shchinatu zo v'gam Eimel Emet Malkeinu, Efet Suato, Kakatu, V'Torato, Yadatayon, V'Hashemot Elohecha, Ki Adonai, Hu Elohim. Shamayim b'ma'al, v'acharetz b'acharetz V'nemar v'haya
We may be seated for a moment. In a few moments, the Mourner's Kaddish will take place. It's on 184. Beth Israel congregation remembers the yortzites this Shabbat of Arthur Abelson, Frida Ben Avi, Francis Bixler, Charles Darrow, Sidney Frankel, Molly Glicksberg, Rose Goldman, Jack Good, Miriam Grodin, Louis Horowitz, Leonid Hurwicz, Bessie Kaplan, Ethel Koploy, Louis Kroll, Louis Moses Levin, Alfred Lieberman, Tracy Miller, Leon Mohill, Ray Muchnick, Irene Panish, Carl Roth, Jack Rubenfeld, Jeanette Saper, Betty Schlossman, Gerda Seligson, Avram Shore, Diana Sue Singer, Abe Stolzenberg, Eva Tolchinsky, Frank Ullman, Sam Warchowski, Mark Weber, and Nellie Williams, as we continue to remember Elaine Stoller, Natalie Scher, Susan Feingold Schultz, Judith Cashton, Lorraine Sherman, Michael Adams, Leona Leon, Phyllis Werbel, Fanchen Lessing, Carol Feinerman, David Fallman, Bruce Thal, Carol Amster, Gary Joseph Ullman, Paul Ernest Phillips, Leslie Garber Matthews, Alan Fisherman, Raisa Levinskaya, Alice Cohen, Toby Bar, Ben Rothaus, Vivian Perlstein, and Rick Morgenstern, and Our condolences go out to Marilyn and the entire Lindenau family on the passing of Marty, and the funeral will be here at 10:30 tomorrow morning for all, and as well as being streamed for those who will express their condolences and respect for the family in person. And on this special Shabbat, we also remember the blessings that continue to give from the memories of Jim's father, Max Addox, from Jim's brother, David Addox, from Linda Garber, Ashley's stepmother, and Carol Lee Matthews. For those who are reciting the Mourner's Kaddish, please rise and recite with me. And Nathan, will you stand next to me and recite with me for those names? This is the first day in which you recite the Kaddish. V'yikadash Shemei Rabbah, Amen. Be'ama divra hirutei, be'amlich malchutei. V'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala ubizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehe Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei amaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei dekudesha richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'ama v'imru. Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. We may be seated. I see that Candy, I see Kayan and Quinn are well on their way. For so many family and friends, I just want to tell you that much Nathan's been telling me about you. I love asking Nathan about his friends and people because he just lights up when he tells me about you. And that he really follows in the model of his mentor, Ron Sussman. And I'm sure also from examples within the family. A couple of brief announcements. First of all, Tat Shabbat will continue through the summer. It's a sudden announcement, and we're going to pull together. When Katie and Shella family can lead, we'll do that. And when not, we're going to get other people. And so please spread the word because it wouldn't be in any of the publications because it was a recent decision. I also want to thank Meg Bernstein. I thought last night at the Friday night service, she did a really exquisite, beautiful job, very sensitively, of bringing in the themes of Juneteenth into the Friday night service. We had several poems and presentations that were really, really beautiful. And I want to let you know that the conservative movement, as well as others, but the conservative movement has produced a Juneteenth Haggadah. And you can just go to uscj.org, which is our denomination, by the way. And it's really cool. It's put together by Jews of color, as well as, of course, using readings by those who are not Jewish themselves in order to support this incredible, as a people with similar strands in their history, and certainly themes of the importance of justice, liberation, and freedoms, human rights. It's a powerful connection. So thanks to Meg for last night's service, and thanks to USCJ for providing these materials. In addition, I want to let you know that I hopefully will be able to spend some time honoring my father and mother, which is a rare chance I get. So hopefully I'll be leaving town soon to be able to spend some time with them. And I have a treat for you, which is those who grew up in the congregation may well know Naomi Gertland, who is not only an incredibly deep human individual, but is also an advanced rabbinical candidate. And it's been great having Zachary Bernstein here and Josh Bender and others. And now Naomi Gertland will be taking the Bima and sharing her Torah. She'll be doing pop-up Mishnah in Carytown. She'll be doing some other kinds of things. And so you'll have a treat on the Bima in my absence. And also she'll be here for several weeks. So we'll also get a chance to share the Bima together and to share her profound Torah. So we look forward, and please make her feel welcome when she returns from Boston to Ann Arbor. In addition, I want you to pay attention to the fact that we have several outdoor events coming up, including, it's just great to use the beautiful Michigan weather to spend time together. We have Barhu, Bounce House, and there's another B in there. I forget what it is, but I know hot dog doesn't start with B. Barbecue, but it's barbecue, which does start with a B. And so coming up, pay attention. We have some really, really fun outdoor services to eat together, to play together, and to daven together. We'll also be in County Farm Park for some of our public space Shabbats. coming up in August, where we'll be doing similar things there with Eco Shabbat combined, which makes sense since it's where the Beth Israel Garden is. And I know, Meg, tell me. Come up and tell us yourself because you're the point person. No, because no, don't be sorry. Thank you for doing
I
it.
just want people to really come. So I'm working with Federation and JCC and a couple of other organizations around town to organize a Jewish community meetup at Ann Arbor Summerfest, top of the park. So that will be happening this Thursday evening at 5 p.m. We'll be meeting outside of the beer garden. The first 50 people to show up will get free drink tickets, which you can use on adult beverages as well as non-adult beverages. There's music, there's a movie showing at 10. I believe it's the new Spider-Man movie. So that'll be really great. I hope you come out. You get to hang out with a ton of fun Jews like me. So come hang out with me.
We're going to finish with Adon Olam in just a second with the family coming up. But I want to do the bracha over wine so that people, as they go back to get their lunch and celebrate, I'll ask you to make your own blessings over the food. And here we do the Brei Pri Agape. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei Pri Agape. That was one of the 50 free tickets. So there are 49 left. As the family comes up for Adon Olam, I'd like to present Nathan with, I want to get our president first, although probably some of you already did it. Nathan, this is yours. I'll hold it for you right here. Come to this side. And no, you don't open. But I'll tell you what it is. I'll spoil it for you. Which is Nathan already seen this prayer book and his copy of Beis Mayim, the Torah with prophetic readings and commentary. And we add into this a Kiddush cup and candlesticks for making Shabbat. May the values of your family always be connected with your Talmud and these items. And may you remember that a community loves you. Adon Olam.
Adon Olam.
Hashem Olam. V'ser kol.
Azman Shemo Ikra Adon Olam. V'yachare Kivotako. V'ado Imloch Barak Adon Olam. V'hu Hayah. V'hu Obed. V'hu Yeh Tzikora Adon Olam. V'hu Echad. V'ein Sheni. V'hashelo V'hachira Adon Olam. V'li Reshit. V'li Tachlit. V'lo Ha'ozah Yisra Adon Olam. V'hu Eli. V'chai Roli. V'tzur Rabli V'eit Zara Adon Olam. V'hu Nisi. U'manosi. Menakosi V'yom Ekra Adon Olam. V'yado. Hakiruhi. V'eit Misham Ha'ira Adon Olam.
Let's finish strong.
V'Ruhi. V'Yati. Adonai V'lo Ira Adon
Everybody, move back, please.